Speaking of them, though,
you might be right. I was gonna say you might be right.
I mean, that was one of my highlights from the week one. Was I was interested in that game because of the 4 different quarterbacks, and Fields played because Wilson was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He had a solid game. He took care of the ball. You know, just a game manager. Ran the ball a little bit. I think he had 40, 50 yards on the ground.
Yep.
But Cousins was looking a little, maybe he was a little skittish because coming back from the injury. But he didn't look great, man.
No, he didn't. It was it's like one of the things I was talking about in the fantasy pod too is like because he's got to plant off that foot to throw.
Yeah.
And so that's the concern because they were in the pistol basically the whole game. And when they were it was either pistol or shotgun. He was never under center to drop back.
Yeah.
So that's a red flag. And then whenever they were in the pistol, they were basically running it the whole time. And so it became really easy to call their plays. And it's so you just had TJ Watt teeing off like, oh, this is a run play.
Man.
So Bijan still got 60 yards, but it was hard for them to move the ball when you know what's coming. Mm-hmm. So you might be right. I mean, he said he felt good, better than he thought his ankle as well. But I mean, if you watch the video, it's
watch him back.
I don't know. He's just not driving the ball.
I watched the whole game and I was waiting for the moment where there was kind of like this breakout moment, but I don't know. It was an Achilles tear, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, same thing with Rodgers. Rodgers, he still has the arm, but his footwork and everything, he looked a little, he needed to get back on the saddle as well. So, it's week one.
Right. And Rodgers was 4 plays into the season.
Right.
If I remember right, it was almost halfway through the season with Cousins. So it's a big difference too of like 2 months difference. That's true. Like, if you ahead of schedule per se, and who knows with all that magic medicine that Aaron Rodgers does, maybe he heals better. I don't know.
Yeah, no telling.
Who knows? One of the big ones for me, man, the Chiefs. The Chiefs look really good. So the last couple of years, they've won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, with
pretty lousy receiving core. Rashee Rice last year picked it up second half of the year. They had Kelsey. They have Noah Gray, a good tight end, not Kelsey level.
Right.
But I mean, their best receiver was the ghost of Juju Smith-Schuster. And then they go win the Super Bowl and Kadarius Toney doing goofy stuff. And then they go and do it again. And now all of a sudden, Hollywood Brown, who didn't play, but he'll be in there. He'll make a difference. Xavier Worthy, 3 touches, 2 touchdowns. It's a game breaker right there. This could be a three-peat if they manage it right. They have the coach, they have the quarterback, and they have the weapons on offense that are all pretty cheap comparatively. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, rookie contracts. Isaiah Pacheco, rookie contract. They're looking scary.
And they got Hollywood at a discount, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood, I'm big on Worthy. Obviously, we can't say that enough that he ran a 4.2. And you could see it.
So fast.
He had his first 2 touches were touchdowns. That reverse play, that like 20-yard reverse play, that was just, that was awesome. So, and they didn't have to pay Tyreek, and they still got a super fast guy. So,
I was going to say, do you remember, was there a time in middle school, I assume, where you were just 5 steps faster than everybody else?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
But
it was for me at certain points in middle school. Yeah, like every once in a while, it was boom. Like you're playing a game of pickup, and you're like, I am way faster than everyone out here.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
And you just burn them, and you're just burning them. And you're just like, I'm gonna run another go route. Just chunk it. Just throw it as high as you can. I'll get it. That's what it seems like Xavier Worthy's doing out there. He's just so much faster. And if you you ever watch like the all 22s and stuff like that, where they do the dots?
Yeah.
And they don't. So his dot's like so much faster than everybody else's dot. It's just like, wow, dude, his speed. It's incredible to be. It's just that thing that always amazes me with like those jerseys behind you. How is everyone a professional athlete and someone's so much better? Like, how is that guy so much faster than everyone?
Yeah.
I know someone has to be the fastest, but man,
I thought about that with Parsons as well. Micah Parsons on the Cowboys, and he said it in his podcast before. He's like, the NFL is easy. It's like that to get to the top of the mountaintop. You're with the best athletes in the world, and to still feel like you can just dominate. It's a whole different level.
Just ridiculously cool. Mm-hmm. Crazy, I tell you.
Crazy, man. So what happened with Lamar couldn't get her done?
Lamar couldn't get it done. The big game gets him again. And I mean, by the toe.
And man,
he did miss a wide open receiver too. So that's that's a bit of a problem.
2 plays before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Missed him wide open, which was good for my fantasy team, but not good for our boy Lamar.
Yeah, not great for mine either. But yeah, that throw right there, the missed throw, I think on second down, I was like, that's a throw that Patty Mahomes makes in the AFC Championship to win.
Yeah.
And he makes it every time because he's that guy.
Man, when you're the guy, it's such a thin margin.
Yeah. I hope it's a different outcome this year, but wasn't a great start for him. So he put up points.
Too much hero ball.
He put up points for me.
Yeah, he did. And what's crazy, what drives me crazy about them is the game was close pretty much throughout. And the first drive, I think they ran Derrick Henry 6 times the first drive, and they ran him 7 more times the rest of the game. They were never, they were within 10 the whole game, but they weren't ever really out of the game, and yet they went to hero ball real fast. And this is kind of what happened last year with them too. As soon as they get behind, it's Lamar hero ball, and they don't run a balanced attack. So yeah, Derrick Henry had 6 carries the first drive. He finishes with 13. Lamar ended up with 16 carries, 122 yards. And he was lowering the shoulder. He wanted to win so bad. Well, so I think Lamar gets into trouble when he tries to do hero ball. And he's trying to do too much and putting too much weight on those shoulders. I love the responsibility. I love that he wants to win. But man, you got to trust your teammates. You got to stick to the game plan a little bit better if you want to win consistently.
What you think about? Did you have any other Week 1 games you wanted to touch on? Or
yeah, the Cowboys just trashed the Browns.
That was crazy.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't even watch a ton of it because I was watching the boys, but my neighbors are big Cowboys fans, so I heard a lot of yelling, and so I would sneak out my phone real quick and turn on YouTube TV. Oh, punt return. And people say it wasn't a good Dak game. It was a perfect Dak game. They got up early, and then they got out of there because you had 2 rookies on the offensive line going against Myles Garrett. You were trying
wild.
Yeah, you were trying to get out of Dodge with no injuries and as few hits on Dak as possible. So I totally agree with the game plan in the second half. Kind of slow it down, muddy it up. Deshaun Watson is done. Bring in Jameis. Bring in our guy.
We
want to see it.
The biggest thing for me was his body language, and then it kind of seemed like the team was kind of rejecting him. You didn't see a lot of people patting him on the back on the sideline. You're like, man, I don't know if they like Deshaun.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
Have you heard about his burner account? Or they think it's his burner account?
No, is it a Twitter account?
Yeah. Defending him and trashing the offensive line and saying, hey, if I had Trent Williams, or if number 4, if you're, he's referring to himself in third person.
Yeah.
But if he had that, then, he would have time to make the throws. It's like, you were missing all the throws, man.
Yeah. He still showed flashes of being great. I saw some Clemson stuff in there. But yeah, for the most part, it was just kind of like, ooh, this is kind of hard to watch because you would think he'd be better. He got the spotlight. It's game of the week. You're playing the Cowboys. You're back. I get the shoulder surgery thing and all that, but yeah, he just didn't look that great. I also couldn't tell because there's still a lot of people that are defending the Browns, saying they have a good defense and I don't know what else,
A good roster.
Yeah.
Overall, I think they have a well-constructed roster.
Right.
I think the quarterback throws them off. And I might have been wrong. The Trey Lance trade may not have been the worst trade ever. I forgot that the Deshaun trade might be the worst trade ever.
In terms of, money getting paid. But are the Cowboys that good? They looked great. They looked back to normal from last year.
And the big difference between this year and last year, that works. This year and last year. I was trying to think if my grammar was right there. I teach English, I think.
Yeah.
The Cowboys were not good on the road, but that was a perfect road game. They got up. They controlled the pace of play. Overshawn on defense looked fantastic. Him and Micah both were just dominating. The other linebacker, the one out of Texas who didn't, third or fourth round pick, tore his ACL last year. And so he was out all last year. Bill Belichick was talking about this, how, you have your big money guys. Every team does. Micah, Lamb, Dak, obviously. Then you got to fill the roster out with guys who are on good contracts. So Brandon Aubrey, the kicker's on a cheap contract.
Right.
Turpin, the punt returner, cheap contract. Jeez. Overshawn, rookie deal. Yeah. All these guys, like they've actually done as much crazy flack they give Jerry Jones, which he brings it on himself because he loves the attention.
Right.
They really have a pretty good roster. Like, this is a top-notch roster. They have a good coach. I love Mike Zimmer's defense. They did significantly more zone. So Dan Quinn's defense, this might be too technical. We can cut this if you want.
Go for it.
But Dan Quinn's defense was mostly man-to-man, and that's what burned them in the Green Bay game is they switched to zone. And so then it was idiotic. You play man-to-man all year. When you go zone, you only go cover 3. And instead of playing man-to-man like you did all year, you switched to zone early on and you got trashed. Dan Quinn defenses also struggle against the run, and Shanahan offenses. Zimmer's the opposite, and Dan Quinn blitzes a lot. Zimmer runs cover 4, cover 6, cover 2, cover 3, mostly zone. He rarely blitzes, but man, when he does, it hits. Like, he got hit Deshaun 15 times, I think, last game.
Gosh.
They were always in his face.
Yeah, it was
incredible,
like crazy.
So this is week 1. And Zimmer's already got a defensive masterclass where they didn't do anything. The Cowboys, I think the Browns had 1 first down in the first half.
Wow. Yeah, they only had, I think, 1 good drive the whole game.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
Side note, James Cook he scored 4 touchdowns last year, and he has 3 touchdowns tonight.
Gosh. Against the Dolphins?
Right. I started him in both leagues that I have him. Woo. So I'm feeling pretty stacked about that.
Pretty froggy. Dak got paid his money.
And my money.
Give me my money. I figured he would sign with the Cowboys again, just because I think this is probably going to be his last big contract.
He'll be 35.
I would imagine. And he's smart enough to know that you got to stick with the brand. You stick with Jerry. Jerry's going to take care of you after your career, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think he knows that.
I mean, look at Romo. That guy can barely talk, and he's still announcing.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree with you. I was so surprised
in the booth.
Oh, I mean, Witten was not good.
It was terrible.
Troy Aikman's on the top team with Joe Buck on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Michael Irvin's still rolling. Dion's, he's coaching now, but he was on for a while. 9-toe Dion.
Got to hold it down. 9 toes down, baby.
Hey, Dion would have scored that touchdown that the Ravens guy missed. He only got 9 toes.
He would have been good.
It's just crazy to me that the franchise is so strange. Like, it's strange. It's kind of incompetent, but it's not incompetent because you put together a great roster. You win 10 to 12 games every year. You find great quarterbacks out of nowhere twice in a row with Romo and with Dak. And yet you don't pay the guy till literally game day. And if they hadn't signed game day, then odds are that they would have just played the season out. And it seemed like the big dispute was over the guaranteed money.
Yeah.
I think what I was hearing was Dak wanted all 240 guaranteed, and the Cowboys wanted like 200 guaranteed.
Well, would they land coming in 220 or something?
231, one more than Deshaun Watson got.
Okay.
Which, if you look at it, Cowboys did a little bit better, I would say, than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That was a great comparison the first week. I heard the signing bonus was like $80 million.
Golly.
It's not bad.
And that's like straight into his bank account.
That's not bad.
Incredible.
That hits week 1. I'm glad he signed, though. I think if this squad, there's still a chance. When do they got to pay Parsons? Is that after this year or next year?
Yes.
Okay.
It's after this year.
So
they'll play this season out, and then they'll need to pay Parsons.
They have to pay Parsons.
Oh, and that's gonna set the market for sure. He needs. I mean, I don't understand the point of saying like, oh, we don't want to set the market. The dude's the best. If he's the best, pay him like the best. Show him his respect.
Yeah.
Reward the guys, and that's the way it works. It's kind of like the NBA almost, where you have 4 or 5. In the NBA, you have 2 or 3 guys making all the money, and then you fill the roster in.
Right.
In the NFL, it's the same thing. You got the quarterback, you got 1 or 2 receivers, you got 1 or 2 defenders. Those are your 5 guys. And then it's all distributed from there.
Fill in 48 other guys.
Maybe an O lineman or 2 will get paid heavy.
Right.
That's why it's such a cheat code to have Brock Purdy, because then you can pay the running back and 2 receivers and the tight end and the linebacker and this guy and that guy. But I mean, they're going to have to pay Purdy $60 million here in a couple of years, and I would take Dak over him every day of the week.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think they'll hold on. I don't think they'll pay Purdy, but you never know.
I didn't think they paid Dak.
Tyreek Hill got arrested.
Whoops.
Thought that was a little, I don't know. Did you watch the video?
I did.
Yeah, I got mixed.
I think
sucks.
Couldn't have happened to a better guy. So somehow Deshaun Watson gets his proper flack for domestic issues.
Right.
But Tyreek Hill gets away with it.
Okay. Oh, he did have something like that, right?
Yeah, why do you think he fell in college? He spent the night in jail and was charged with a felony domestic assault and battery.
Woo.
By strangulation. He strangled a girl and punched her in the stomach and in the face.
Dang. Didn't know that.
And so that's why he falls in college. And then he's, got 19 different baby mamas, whatever. And so he just kind of gets away with it, and I don't know why. And so when you watch the video, he was speeding. He gets pulled over for speeding. You might say the cop should have de-escalated, and that's fine. But also, he asked him to roll the window down. Hey, roll the window down. Like, that was the point where it escalated. Because it was, he was being kind of rude.
He was being
to the cop,
rude.
Which is fine.
That's what I thought.
He said, just give me my ticket and go. Which is funny. Like, I have a friend who said the same thing. He got caught speeding. He goes, hey, officer, I'm kind of in a hurry. That's why I was speeding. So if you just want to go ahead and give me the ticket, that's fine.
Yeah.
And the cop obliged. So, like, I was fine with that part. But then, dude, just roll your window down. Because you never know what someone's doing in the car. Yeah.
And I guess they said the police officers didn't know who he was.
Well, no, they're all Bills fans.
Oh, my gosh.
That's so funny, though. Like, yeah, NFL players without pads on, like, they're shredded, but in their street clothes, it's hard to tell unless you're an offensive lineman or defensive lineman or 6'7" quarterback.
Extremely tall. It's you can notice a basketball player more just because they're usually 6'7".
Yeah, how tall is Tyreek? I think he's just 6'1" or something like that.
Tyreek's probably like 5'9".
Oh, 5'10".
Dude, he's 5'10".
He's my height. Yeah. 191 pounds. So he's got a couple pounds on me. Man, that guy's so fast.
Incredibly fast. But not as fast as Xavier Worthy.
No. Dude's awesome. Well, loved week 1. Great matchups.
Yeah.
Super fun. It was nice to have football back. Also, like, if you're doing gambling, always bet the under in week 1 because the offenses are just barely going. The under is almost always hit in week 1. It takes them like 3 or 4 weeks to really get going.
Huh.
And that's totally understandable.
Interesting.
Yeah. So week 2, week 3, now we start to hit more overs. If you're into that thing.
Yeah.
But what are some games you're looking at in week 2? Some things you're looking for in the NFL?
The biggest 2 that I have is, I'll start with Baker Magic.
Dude.
Baker's balling. He's had a great year last year. I know I didn't have that on the list, but I have it written down.
Oh,
and
fun.
It's Lions versus Bucks.
Another playoff matchup.
Lions pulled it out Monday night.
What a game.
Looked like a solid team. But I want to see how good this Bucks team is. Are they a top 5-10 team? I think they're a playoff team. But how good can they be? And how good can Baker be? I think the Browns are maybe regretting letting Baker go. Probably the best thing for his career, though. Probably motivated him a lot to get a little better. But Baker Magic. That's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, they stomped a bad team, as good teams do.
Correct.
On Sunday when they beat Washington 37-20. Baker looked great. It's a bad defense, but that's what you want to see. Yeah. If you're a good team, he goes 24 of 30 for 289 and 4 touchdowns. He targeted Godwin 8 times, and Godwin had 8 catches. He spread the ball to his players. Evans had 6 for 70. Evans had 5 for 61 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Just a good game.
Great game.
All around. Yeah.
Baker's balling. I want to see it.
This game has a huge over-under because the Bucks are missing basically their entire secondary. I think both corners are hurt and both safeties are hurt, or they had to replace them. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Good fantasy game.
Look for it. Should be. That's why I picked up Jared Goff, because
I saw that
the Bucks are good. The Bucks are good against the run, but they don't have a secondary. So I'm thinking it's a heavy pass game. It's a high over-under because as you saw on last Sunday, the Lions are also good against the run, but they were trash in pass defense. So they got torched over and over by Cooper Kupp. And Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are really good.
Right.
So, and their offensive line will be a little bit better than the Rams, who lost 3 starters. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. I think it's going to be a big offensive game. It seems like the weaknesses and the strengths kind of played nicely together to get us a fun, high-scoring game.
Yeah, I think it'll be great.
One of the games I'm looking for this week, obviously Cowboys Saints, just because I want to see how these teams fare. Cowboys at home, the Saints looked phenomenal, stomping a pathetic excuse for a team in the Panthers, which I won 8 Retro Bowls with over the weekend. I went ahead and downloaded Retro Bowl and went 8 for 8.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I was bored. A lot of semi games.
Mm-hmm.
You just draft a good quarterback. And that's really what you got to do. So we're going to find out if the Saints are good. It's because they got a new offensive coordinator. The defense wasn't the problem last year. Derek Carr looked great on Sunday. Are the Saints good, or were the Panthers just that bad? Because this Cowboys defense looks really good last Sunday. It'll be a real test to see if the Saints have turned the corner. And if they have, if the Saints win this game, I think they're looking really nice in that division.
100%. That's what I'll be tuned to that too. And then kind of segueing into your next point, I want to see if Caleb Williams does he bounce back in week 2? Obviously had a rough first week.
96 yards passing.
Yeah, I watched some of it. I was trying to click back and forth to 100 different games, and I had NFL season pass for about 30 minutes. YouTube TV gives you like a free promo every year. And so
that's what I did too. I
always forget the first week, and I'm like, oh, wow, I got this. And then you're just clicking back and forth, and then it's like, hey, your trial's up, midway through.
Dang it, I should have done this in the second half
quarter,
of the game.
You're like, crap. But yeah, I don't know. I was about to see who are they playing. Oh, yeah, Texans. So they're probably going to lose to the Texans. Texans are a better team, I would assume. But maybe as a bounce back week. I think he'll get better as the year goes along. Relax a little bit.
I agree with you. I think kind of on that note, the Bears actually have a really good secondary.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be strength versus strength. What the Texans do, what surprises a lot of people, is they're actually a really balanced attack. So they run the ball just as much as they pass it. Because Stroud was so good last year and there was a lot of deep passes, but they were pounding the ball.
Joe Mixon was killing.
Joe Mixon had 30 carries yesterday. Last Sunday. They're going to want to run the ball. I think they're going to be able to run the ball, which is going to shorten the game a little bit. But yeah, I agree with you. Caleb, and honestly, all the young quarterbacks really struggled.
Yeah.
Caleb struggled.
Daniels?
Bo Nix was awful. Daniels struggled through the air. He was not good, but he
had 80 yards on the ground or something like that, right?
Yes. I think he ran for 2 touchdowns. It was kind of crazy. but he struggled. Who's the other one? Oh, Anthony Richardson looked interesting, but he was 9 of 19. He's one of those that he's kind of like a Madden player where he was 9 of 19 for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was either running it himself or throwing it deep. But yeah, Will Levis struggled. Caleb Williams struggled. The quarterback, Bo Nix, the quarterback play for the young quarterbacks left something to be desired on Sunday.
And there was a lot of hype for this quarterback class. A couple guys are out, a couple guys are not starting.
But it was supposed to be Caleb Williams was the guy, in preseason especially. He looked so good, which it's not like a determinant if you're good, but if you look horrible in the preseason, it's bad. It's really bad if you look horrible in the preseason.
What'd you think about the Jets, 49ers, just to catch one more game?
Yeah, that was surprising how bad the Jets were against the run. Their defense was fantastic last year. I know the 49ers are a really good run offense, but without CMC, I thought, okay, the Jets defense will slow them down. And they just got ran over.
Yeah.
And so once again, Kyle Shanahan is the best coach in the NFL outside of Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably one of the best run as far as coaches for running the ball. He just always schemes up something. And it just seems like guys are always open. And I really thought that the Jets were going to win that one, but they did not.
49ers looked great. And yeah, they had I think 8 straight possessions where they scored.
Jeez.
And Deebo Samuel is a man and a half.
It's a freaking dog.
The fact that he can move to receiver and running back, I love it. I love that about him. And then the Jets, they kind of looked like the teams that there's not a lot of chemistry there.
Needs some time.
Yeah, needs some time.
Rodgers, I thought, looked okay.
Yeah.
Overall.
He was still slinging it. His
little rusty.
Yeah.
But
arm strength looked great, but yeah, just a little rusty. So
nice to have football back.
We're back, baby.
Let's go. Can't believe he has 3 touchdowns in the first half. Do that 6 touchdown game. Give me a 6 touchdown
Crazy.
Game. Crazy. But one of the things I thought was cool in week 1 was the Browns have Brownie the Elf.
Yeah, they were.
So do you know about this?
Was it back in the middle of the field, or they got it on their shirts and stuff?
I know it's on the middle of the field, and their practice jerseys have them. And I'm like, what's up with that elf? So what goes back to the name, the Browns. So they had a contest to name the team in the 40s. I think it was the 40s. Hang on, let me pull my notes up.
40 sounds right.
Interstitial. They had a contest to name, and they wanted to name it after Paul Brown, the Browns, the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Brown initially vetoed it, and they were going to name them the Cleveland Panthers, but some other businessman had actually owned the rights to Cleveland Panthers. So that was vetoed. So they went the Browns. And so they're like, how do you get an elf out of that? Well, the legend is there's these things called brownies, which are back in Britain in the 1600s. And it was a small, hairy creature. So Dobby the Elf is
kind of like
brownie.
Dobby the Elf. That's what I was about to say.
Yes.
From Harry Potter?
That's exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right. Dobby the Elf is based on these brownies, these little elves.
Oh, really?
Yes, exactly. That do chores, that undertake a range of domestic and agricultural things, and they get free room and board from the humans, is the legend. And so they needed something for that. And so, what is a logo for a brown, Mud?
Yeah.
Something else. And so there was this root beer company that had Brownie the Elf as their mascot, and they basically just took that. And they're like, okay, there we go. We have something that makes sense with our nickname. And so let me show you this. In 1946, against the Miami Seahawks, which I have to now look up who the Miami Seahawks are, but I got this from the Pro Football Hall of Fame Twitter account. So here's a game poster, a program.
Man, look at that guy.
Introducing Brownie the Elf.
Brownie the Elf. He's a little guy.
Yeah, and then they started. So then there was the mascot, who Paul Brown loved the guy who was the mascot. So what the mascot would do is he'd stand next to or behind Paul Brown, and whatever Paul Brown did, the mascot would mimic. So if he get mad and throw his hat down, then Brownie the Elf would throw his hat down. And so it became a beloved character. And of course, they were winning at the time. They just dominated. They won in 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 54, 55, 56. Yeah.
Ballin'.
Yeah, so they won like 8 championships. Well, they won 8 championships, 7 in a stretch of 9 years, and then one more in 64. And so, of course, the mascot at the time becomes this beloved thing. And it was their mascot until Art Modell bought the team in the 60s and said, we're not doing that anymore.
Cut it out, right?
He did. And then you know what Paul Brown Stadium is?
I don't.
Paul Brown Stadium is in Cincinnati because Paul Brown went and founded the Cincinnati Bengals.
Ooh. He said, I'm done with this?
Yes. So he went and founded their arch rival. So I think he got kicked out.
That's what started that. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense. I mean, that's biggest rivalry in Ohio.
Yeah, in 68.
Outside of Michigan.
He was the co-founder and first coach of the Bengals. Yeah, he was fired in 63 after a power struggle with Art Modell. And in 68, he co-founded and coached the Bengals. Just crazy.
Wow. Wait, so what brought it back? Because it's been like the last couple of years where I've seen the coach wearing like hoodies or something that had the logo on it.
Right. So obviously Art Modell moved the team to the Ravens. And so they eventually put it out to a fan vote of what they wanted. So it kind of like started coming back, and then they put it to a fan vote of what they wanted as the center logo, and Brownie the Elf won. Of all things, Brownie the Elf won the center logo because a lot of people thought that the dog would win it. Yeah. But yeah, the people voted, and Brownie the Elf was the
telling you, man,
was the winner.
History pulls on the heart sometimes.
It really does.
Yeah. Which is interesting. How that stuff can flutter through time. Even if you weren't there, you're like, maybe it's hearing about it. And the success of the team at the time. All that.
I think that was a big deal, was during the years that they were the greatest, that was the mascot. I'm reading here in 2006, Brownie the Elf was used in a training cap patch commemorating the team's 60th anniversary. And so that started to bring it back at that point. But yeah, like we get attached to jerseys and logos and things like that from our glory days and glory. That's why I hate a lot of alternate jerseys. Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, that's not the classic. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. History definitely pulls on the heartstrings.
The only historical uniforms I don't like are the Giants.
The ones they wore this Sunday?
Those were terrible.
Those were trash. I honestly don't like their regular jerseys either.
I'm okay with the white ones. I like the white ones.
It seems like a little too plain almost.
It's pretty plain. But I kind of like that red on blue. It's red, white, and blue. So.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
You know who chose those?
USA.
We done?
Something bad is about to happen.